guest experience. We are starting in 1 minute. Come on down.
Oh, these are cabled. Nice.
So thank you. Thank you to the good folks of putting the event on. Thank you for the invitation. But above all, thank you for investing time in this session. I promise you, you will have practical, useful things that you can take back to your business. If there is not at least one practical thing that you take back, I will personally write you a check to the value of £500 to the charity of your choice. How's that? It's the only presentation here with a money-back guarantee. How does that sound? Right, you need to put your headphones on, otherwise you're not going to hear us. So shove your headphones on. I'm not going to be talking this loudly for the rest of the afternoon because people will start to complain if they do. But I've got the good fortune of having an amazing panel here. Two folks who are well placed to help actually tackle the elephant in the room, and that is this. The elephant in the room, so we believe, is that nobody's using AI in the post-purchase experience to any real extent. A lot of folks say they're doing it, but nobody's actually using it to good effect. If there is anybody in the room that is using AI in the post-purchase experience and can show business outcomes, please indicate, because we want you to join us here. We've actually asked 50 people from the event organizers. No, these are the problems, but no one's actually said, do you know what, we're using it, except if you're a vendor. And of course, vendors tell you they can do everything. So this panel's going to be a bit different. This panel's actually going to cover a couple of really honest things. We have an amazing person, Yolanda, who's going to tell us about her own practical experience as a practitioner in this space. And we've got Nihir, who's a technical expert, to say this is what's actually possible. And what we're going to do is invite them to tell us a bit about themselves in a moment, but we're going to cover these things. If you want to make contact with folks, this is on at the end as well. These are the amazing panelists that you've got here. So sincere thank you again, both. But we're going to cover these 8 things. What's the provenance of these 8 things? Having asked these 50 people, so who is it that's actually doing a good job of AI in the post-purchase experience? They said nobody. So we asked, where is AI going to impact the end-to-end experience? And 50 of your peers said, well, in these areas. There are 8 areas. These and these, okay? So you've got a bit of work to do. I'm going to show these slides again. You need to decide what's going to be the most useful bit that we focus on. We've got time for 2. Yep. Show of hands. And then we're going to actually dive into those 2 areas. Not only is this a money-back event, but it's one that's going to be focused on the stuff that's most useful. Is that helpful? Thank you. Right, so these are the 2 areas. Personalization. Using it in terms of conversational AI and chatbots. Using it to help your advanced sentiment analysis. Using it for predictive analytics. Got that? Which of those looks useful? The next 4, omnichannel, voice recognition, journey mapping automation, and dealing with the ethical issues. Okay, so think about those. After we've introduced our panel, I'm going to invite you to vote and say which one's which. All right, good? I know that there's nervous anticipation here. We've got these two amazing speakers. Yolanda, tell us a bit about yourself, your journey, and she literally ran here to make sure she was here on time. So Yolanda, breathless, tell us a bit about yourself.
Literally, I was running. My name is Yolanda Valery. I have a vast experience in a number of different places. My real background is in journalism. So when David invited me to do this talk, I told him, David, it's not like I know a lot about this. And David said, well, there's a lot of, of people who can talk about it. So I kind of went around this challenge as a journalist. So you will hear when we get to that point. After leaving the BBC, where I worked for 18 years of my life, I was head of digital engagement for Ocado Group. That is not the supermarket, it's the B2B side of the business. But, well, I do have a little bit of an insight on what the supermarket does. And in this day and time, I'm doing agency work. So as a content strategist, that's really my background.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan.
Hey, everybody, I'm Nihir. That's a bit outdated, but I'll give you a little bit of a background on myself. So I'm a PhD at Imperial College London, where I study multimodal AI. Basically what that is, I'm sure all of you here have used ChatGPT. That's where you give it a text input and you get a text output. Multimodal AI is what I believe is the future, where you can give this AI model different kinds of inputs. So you can say, here's an image and here's some text, do some reasoning on top of that. Aside from that, I'm also a guest lecturer there, where I teach the master's students in AI. And I'm trying to build a startup in the marketing space, so I'd love to hear more from you, discover problems, and see how AI can directly help solve the business problems that you're facing.
And with a day's notice, agreed to join us on the panel. I'm sure you want to show your appreciation for these two amazing speakers in the usual way. Thank you. Okay, so for my part, my name's David Hicks. I lead a business called XM Coach. If you find this type of conversation useful, XM Coach is the place to continue that type of conversation. Check it out, take a look. I'll be happy to talk to you more about it later on. But let's take a look at these areas. So, you taking a look? Do you have a view? Rightio. So, Yolanda, Nihir, help me with counting the hands up here. So, who'd want to spend time looking at area number 1? Show your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 1 is 7. Righto. Good. Number 2. Who wants to look at number 2? All right. 1, 2, 3, 3. Thank you. Come on. Who wants to look at number 4? 2, 3. 3. Look at number 3. Sentiment analysis. That's a dead duck. All right. We're not going to talk about that one. Number 1 so far. Sorry. Maybe. Number 4, predictive analysis. Customer. Oh, that's it. We're onto something here. Thank you. Looks like number 4. Let's take a look at number 5, omnichannel. That looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the third one so far. Thank you. Number 6, voice and image recognition. You guys should get out more. You really should, if that's of interest. About 4, all right. Journey mapping, automation. Oh, hang on. That looks like number 2 then. Yeah, righto. And finally, ethical and data. All right. Do you want to do number 6 first, or the? Should we start with number 6? Righto. Is anybody an expert in this area to start with? Righto. So, Yolanda, you've actually done mapping, automation, and so on. How would you, as a leader, try and work out the potential impact, the impact, the opportunities of applying AI in terms of mapping and automating the end-to-end experience? How would you tackle that?
Well, I think precisely in the way that I did it to come to this event. Unfortunately, there is no, and please do contradict me, but I don't think there is like a body of research on this matter. I felt when I used to be head of social media for BBC World Service Languages that I was like a surgeon. I needed to be constantly reading and, signing up to the right newsletters and the right journals and magazines and what have you, just in order to keep up. And the other thing that you can do is just to come to this kind of events and really run the room, which is what I did yesterday, David. I was like, I have no answers. So I'm going to just ask in each one of these stands, what are you doing? And obviously, as you are saying, there's a lot of we have a lot of vendors here, but the other thing that I did is I contacted some of my network on LinkedIn. So out of a cross-section of retailers across drinks, clothing, cosmetics, and a number of others, I did ask this question, what are you doing? And out of the 10 or so people that I spoke to, there were only 3 who were capable of telling me this is what we're doing. And this is exactly, it's about the journey mapping and the automation of the processes, whereby basically what you do is utilize tools to which you can feed all of the vast amount of data. It's one of the problems that businesses have had ever since digital is a thing. You have all of this data, what do you do with it, right? So here comes AI, and it's going to say, okay, then I'm going to solve your problem. Give the data to me. I'll make something meaningful out of it.
Cool. Is anybody online whilst they're here? Can somebody just tap in www.customerjourneymap.com just when they've got a second whilst we're talking? Does that surprise you to hear Yolanda saying that she spoke to, was it 11 people and only 3 really had any insights? I mean, is this practical? Does it surprise you?
So I think one of the problems is there are so many touch points, and as you touched on, it's actually incredibly hard to unify that funnel. Now, if you're running a larger company, you typically have multiple different brands within you, each of which are targeted to different audiences. These different audiences want to be touched in different ways, and they want to have different and personalized experiences tailored to them. I think when you have one person, they specialize in one particular type of customer, and they can build a journey out for that particular customer. But how do you generalize that? How do you get from, hey, okay, we've tackled this energy drink for 18 to 25-year-olds to now we need a different experience for a skincare product for 60 to 80-year-olds, for example. So I think one of the issues is the fact that the funnel is just inherently fragmented. Different people are on different channels, and unifying those data sources is very difficult, not from a technical perspective, but because there are so many different stakeholders which are involved in that process. You'll have an agency which does Facebook ads, and you'll have another agency which does TikTok ads for your energy drinks, part of the problem. However, I think what you're saying about having like some abstract customer journey map to understand the generalization of how people experience your brand, I think that could be valuable. I think there are only a couple of tools that I've seen today from walking around this conference which try to solve this problem of mapping the entire customer journey. And once that's done, you can then start optimizing each different part of the funnel. But I think the biggest problem right now is not whether this is technically possible, because it is. The biggest problem is actually having human stakeholders collaborate well with each other to optimize each part of the funnel.
Did you catch that? So there are 2 real gems there. One, Yolanda is saying, do you know what nobody knows? My job is to soak my network, to actually get myself out to events like this and just know what's happening, just learn, yeah, so that I can be the source of that insight for yourself, but also for my business, and try and be systematic about that. And what Nihir's saying is actually this is a leadership issue, yeah, to actually equip and encourage your leadership so that they understand the art of what's possible. Yeah, something that's possible today, not possible today, give it a week, 2 weeks, it becomes possible. I've spoken at a couple of events on AI in the US, based in the US, and the one thing that's emerged from the 2 most recent ones is your leadership needs to understand this. And there's a big bank, there isn't a bigger bank, one of the chief officers from that big bank got up and said, you know what? The leadership team at this bank is the least equipped group to lead our business at this time. Yeah? So I would recommend that you've got a really key role in this, to understand the art of what's possible from Yolanda's perspective and actually start to build the internal conversations, so across business conversations, so the business understands this is what AI can do now. Useful, practical. Come on, I've got 500 quid riding on this. Was that useful and practical? All right, any questions, queries of our 2 experts here? Of each other? No?
Well, I think it would be useful to kind of understand specific problems, why you guys voted for this, and then instead of us speaking generally, we can tailor down into something which is a problem that you're facing, and we can give our expertise on that.
Nicely put. Anybody want to share a particular issue to do with mapping, the application of mapping? Thank you. Tell us who you are, where you're from.
My name is Riaz. I'm a customer experience manager at the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So my main role is to map some of the key customer journeys. And one of the challenges we're having is similar to what you said, Yolanda, is all of the data points across the journey, trying to capture them because we've got so many different software and platforms, and then trying to bring them together to actually, one, capture that on a recurring basis, and then actually tell a meaningful story. So how do we change that customer journey or improve it based on the data we're getting in? So the question is how can we, when we've got all of these different software and platforms with different datas, bring them together to make it more meaningful?
Great question.
It's a nightmare, isn't it? It's like we change it, and then a year later, it's like, oh, it's not working again. We need to change it again, and forever and ever improving. I think at the moment it's the case of maybe, you know how the AI leaders of the world are also calling people to take it easy, slow down. I think at this moment in time, it's not a moment to rush into any platforms. That's what I will do personally, because it's still, I know it's moving fast. Maybe I'm gonna just get smacked down just right now on that one. But my feeling is, even like I said, walking around the room, there's so much out there, and even some of the vendors here, what they were telling me is we acquire 5 or 6 smaller tools that did different things, and we are consolidating them, and it's a bit of a mess. It's like, there is this newsletter, I receive it every day. The only thing they do is a paragraph on each new tool that comes up. Here is 5 new tools that just turned up yesterday on AI. And there's a point when I don't even read these emails because my head goes, just give me a break. So maybe for me, this moment, I don't know how long that moment is going to be, maybe just a month or 2, I don't know. But this moment is one of just watch and learn for the moment, because there's a lot going on that space. And obviously at some point, there's got to be some consolidation, because at the moment it's unmanageable.
And you're happy that folks find you and maybe share things. What was your name again? Shout it out. Can I get the mic to you again? Find
Riaz.
Bayat at the CIM. Find him and share your experiences on this sort of stuff. Okay. You ready for dropping into the next question area? Yep. It was number 4. Thank you for that reminder. So, who's actually tackling this in their business? I'm going to go back to Yolanda and Nihir to ask. But anybody tackling this? Has anybody got a real live challenge in that area? Why did you vote for this one? Anybody? Anybody got an example that they'd like to? Well, let's Nihir, we can start with you. Has this surprised you in terms of actually using AI to get in front of the game, predictive analytics?
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is because you have large players, Google, Amazon, Meta, who've already implemented these AI tools in their platform. So one example could be Facebook's broad targeting algorithm, which basically internally what they're doing is segmenting different users of the platform and finding similarities between the different people who use their platform. Now, I think there's so much data in CRMs which is currently not being utilized to the full power that it actually could. So when you're defining customer segments or audience segments within your CRM, typically all these CRMs are just functioning on the keyword level with tags and attributes which humans have assigned. They're saying like, oh, this person has purchased blue jeans and they purchased boots, which means that they're likely to purchase something else. But all of these features are currently being handcrafted. What I would advocate for is moving more towards, I guess, this is a technical term, but a vector-based solution, which is what powers the likes of Google and powers the likes of Facebook's AI stuff. And what this allows you to do is pick up correlations between different audiences, which go way beyond what a human could actually identify. You could have a customer segment of people who like blue jeans, who like boots, but browse at 2 a.m. And maybe they're more likely to make a purchase on, I don't know, a white t-shirt than people who have bought black t-shirts before, for example. And I think using these profile vectors, as I'm calling them, to actually predict whether they'll churn, I think is an incredibly powerful technological strategy, which I don't believe the current CRMs have capabilities to actually do. So I want to say it is possible, but I don't think the existing tools out there capture the full value of what could be possible.
Okay. Yolanda, what about yourself? How would you be understanding this and preparing the business for improving your predictive analytics and understanding customer lifetime value more effectively? How would you be approaching that?
Well, I'll say is the future is bright, because with the stuff that we can see today, imagine where we're going to be in a year's time. It's just the speed that this stuff is going on. And again, what I'm going to do is refer to some of my network, as I called them in the beginning. And the story that they were telling me is that, well, obviously, these are things that we have been using for a long time. Things now, we used to call them algorithms, and we used to call them language model, but now they are all AI, because we're all in that wave of all, chat GPT associated stuff and generative AI. So it's just a matter of how fast this whole thing is going to happen. But it's certainly nothing that is new, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you're suggesting that the answer is to be deliberate and not just rush into it, and to actually get your hands on as much insight as you can. I want to invite questions on both of those points, but to preface it, as you can tell from the accent, I live in New York, and I was asked to speak at two conferences. These are paid conferences where people paid 15 grand, typically quite senior leaders. They got some tech experts in place. There was a well-known business broadcaster that chaired the thing, Chatham House rules, or Vegas rules as they call it over there. And there was a teaching. This is AI, this is what it can mean, and so on. Lasted the whole day. And both of the events, there were 7, I could only attend 2. Both concluded the same thing, two things, but the same thing, quite unprompted. One, that it's a leadership issue, and leaders in your organization are the least well-equipped to actually drive this agenda. So your job, I would suggest, is just to open the lid a little to show them what's possible and to be systematic about it. Yolanda's point around actually sharing this is what's actually now possible regularly with your leaders, that would be invaluable. And to get folks looking at this using a joined-up map of the end-to-end experience, that's probably not a bad thing to be doing, to actually get systematic about this. Let's look at the end-to-end experience and what's now possible using these technologies. The second thing that was really interesting, and that's why I agreed to speak on this, both events quite spontaneously arrived at the same thing. If you apply the generative AI capabilities to most businesses, your competitive advantage, your ability to actually get a premium, dissolves. You won't be able to maintain a competitive advantage. One of the few areas of sustainable competitive advantage is your experience. How you make people feel in a post-Gen AI world. So keep that in mind. Actually focusing on the deliberate design of the emotion, that seems to be a smart thing to do, if anything, as a defensive measure, to make sure that you're in good shape to tackle the challenges of AI, particularly the more advanced bits of AI. Righto, any questions on our panel, or should we take a last area? We've got a few minutes more. Yes, we have. Another 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, any other questions? So my friend over here in the white shirt, he's been keeping meticulous records of the of who voted for what. What was the third most interesting one? Anybody want to? Number one, personalization. Okay. Is anybody tackling a personalization issue that they want to tell us the problem so that we can actually kick their particular problem around? Can you imagine? Thank you. Tell us who you are and where you're from, please.
I'm Natisha, so I'm from DBA Jewelry. So I think it's not me, but our team try to do personalization, which is technology we always use in retail, Einstein and Fresh Relevant and all the stuff. But because GDPR, they don't opt in, so we can only personalize experience when they opt in or have an account, so it may be less than 10% of the client or potential client. How can we improve that with that so small amount of data?
Great question. How do you actually move from such a low level of permissions, applying AI maybe to help with that? Who wants to kick that off?
I can start. So I want to say it's possible, but maybe that's just my optimism which is speaking. How we do it is, the good thing is there are still people who are opting into this, so you can at the very least have a vague understanding of who your audience actually is. And I think the next step would be mapping the people who don't have any, who haven't opted in, who don't have similar experiences, but seeing latent correlations between the people who have signed up versus the people who haven't signed up. So maybe there's subtle things in like the items on the website that they hover over. And based on that, you can't collect email addresses, but you do know that, hey, this profile, this person who's browsing the website right now, is similar to this particular segment of people who have actually allowed us to capture their email addresses. And therefore, we know that they're interested in X, Y, and Z product, and we can recommend them the appropriate thing.
That's a practical solution. And Yolanda, how would you go about building the consensus, actually getting the business ready for this conversation?
Honestly, what I wanted was to pick up on a point that you made, is not forget the human. So I already told you, I'm not a technical person, so for me, this is my main consideration. And in my experience, I don't know how many of you are customers of Ocado. I don't work there anymore, but if there is something that always bugged me was do you like these products? But do you like these other products? How about these other products? And 4 pages later, then is when you are allowed to check out. And yes, they are using AI and data and what have you not to try and serve you with what they think is going to be helpful for you. But the reality is, where is the cost? I mean, it's all very good. You can sell me this, but I'm not interested. I just want to complete my shop. And that is also, from my point of view, my message will be, just don't forget this. I think in a world that is ever more synthetic, that's the world that we're moving towards. I think those who remember the human are the ones who are going to end up having the competitive advantage.
That's a wonderful point. Just because you can apply AI to something doesn't mean you should. I think that's a really great point by way of conclusions. I want to invite you to check out the speakers. Well, firstly, to thank them for, we can applaud in a second, for actually at short notice coming to talk about this. Take some comfort from the fact that no one's doing a particularly good job in this yet. If vendors tell you they can, they're probably, I'll leave you to form your own conclusions, right? The thing that you need to do for your own benefit, but also for the benefit of your organization, is systematically seek out what is now possible and to create the mechanisms in your business, like maybe reviewing the map of the end-to-end experience with these insights, so that you're starting to understand how these technologies could be applied to your business. Just giving your leadership a little visibility on this will be immensely valuable to them. They are the least well-equipped to actually lead this challenge. That would go a long way. Okay, I want to say thank you for investing the time. I hope it's been useful. If anything, I hope it's just reassured you that you're not alone. Thank you, Yolanda and Nihir.